up to GB News alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen, or you can go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now it's back to Bev Turner.
So tonight, the news the world has been waiting for. The Princess of Wales will return to public duties tomorrow as she attends Troop in the Colour in central London. The Princess made her last official public appearance on Christmas Day before going into hospital for surgery in the middle of January. She left hospital on January the 29th with details of her condition being kept from the public. After a lengthy absence from the public gaze, a photograph was shared of Kate and her children ahead of Mother's Day on March the 10th. But we all remember it well. The obvious edits to that photograph set the rumour mill into overdrive. A few days later, she was photographed at a farm shop with Prince William, but this still wasn't enough to quieten the rumours surrounding her ongoing absence from public duties. And then, on March the 22nd, Kate finally broke her silence.
In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment.
Now, nearly 3 months later, the Princess will return to public duties tomorrow. Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. Former BBC Chief Political Correspondent John Sargent, political commentator Joanna Jarju and political commentator Alex Armstrong. Evening, folks. I've been working at GB News for over 2 years. That is the first time I've ever walked across a studio live on the TV. Just about made it. John, let's start with you. 6 months since we've had an in-person appearance from the Princess of Wales, and I think in her absence, you realise what an important part of the royal family she is.
And also what effect it has on people, because, of course, everyone then realises the extent to which they are normal, they're normal people, and the affection that people have is for when things go well and when things go badly. But often, when things go badly, that's when people feel closer to them. And that is a part of the sort of strange magic of royalty.
Yeah.
So everybody very much feels, oh, I hope she's getting better. And there's no side to that. It's very straightforward. And she has captured that feeling so quickly. And you can see in her relationship with the king, there's a closeness there that people can appreciate and enjoy.
Joanna, what do you think? Because it's very easy, isn't it, to see the royal family as living this privileged, amazingly privileged existence. But as John said, at a time like this, you realise that illness is a great leveller, actually. And when I heard the story of her being ill and when I see her talking about it now, all I can think about is her children and the fact that she's fundamentally, first and foremost, just a mum.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that I've almost felt sorry for Princess Kate in 2 ways, actually, throughout all of this happening with the cancer diagnosis. One, because obviously she's ill and, like you said, she's a mother. And then secondly, because of the way that her team has handled this. I actually think that we've had, obviously, more than one cancer diagnosis, and the King has come out, I think, looking better in terms of, you know, being able to promote people going for tests when it comes to prostate cancer. But I think when it comes to Kate, I actually disagree with John in the sense that people have felt closer to her, because really what they've done is kept everybody at arm's length and then opened it up for so much unnecessary speculation that it could have just been handled a lot better, so that she could have just got on with her treatment and, you know, focused on her family in peace. So I'm quite disappointed, actually, with the people that should have been rallying around her inside of the firm.
So you think that the privacy that she's demanded, and actually her and William have always said that they want their life to be as private as it is possible to be when you've got 3 young children and you're in the public eye. You think that fighting for that privacy has meant that they've alienated some of the British public? They certainly set the rumour mill alight.
I don't even think it's that. And I think that it's quite ironic that some of the people who now will defend them for wanting privacy, which I know that it's a completely different ballpark when you start talking about, you know, a cancer diagnosis versus Harry and Meghan, for example, asking for privacy. That's different. But I just think that it's the way that they've handled it. It's not about the privacy. I think the whole country would have been behind them. But they've done stuff that's been so unnecessary. The whole editing the picture and not, you know, even if we kind of seen her having a walk in the park or something like that, I actually would have thought that she would have made an appearance maybe in March or something like that, before she'd kind of gone further in her treatment, so that people would have just seen her. It would have settled the rumours rather than the doctored pictures and the tweet from her, you know, taking the fall for it. I don't blame her, but I blame the people who should have been protecting her, because it just opens it up to unnecessary
What do you
scrutiny.
think, Alex? Has it been handled badly? And will her appearance tomorrow just put all of that to one side, do you think?
Yeah, look, I think the PR could have been done better. I think most British people agree with that. I think there has been a few trip-ups by her team. I don't necessarily believe she's the person posting photos on Instagram. I believe there's a team behind her. I think most people would also kind of agree with that too.
You mean not just posting them, but actually taking them?
Yeah, well,
Because
of
she
course.
hasn't taken this
Yeah.
picture that they've been released tonight. There is actually an official photographer. It's almost
Yes.
like you can imagine them joking under that oak tree, can't you, with her saying, right, we can't edit this, make it good.
Absolutely, right. And again, it comes the Photoshop as well. I don't believe Catherine sits there on Photoshop. I really don't. I believe that's a team of people. Again, I don't know how much the rest of Britain agrees with that, but that's what I believe. And look, I think tomorrow, whatever happens, it's going to be a beautiful day. I think that the actual event, she will overshadow it, because she is going to be the main topic on everyone's mind tomorrow. And I'm sure the King and his team, hopefully, are aware that she is going to be the main topic of conversation tomorrow, despite it being about him and his birthday. But I'm elated. I'm glad she's better. I'm sure the whole country is going to be overwhelmed with love towards her over the next 24 hours. This is going to be a big moment for her. And for anyone who's gone through chemotherapy or cancer, this would be a big moment for them.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be
I think her statement was very good.
I was just going to say to that, John, I want to turn to that. I was going to say we are going to be talking to a cancer-surviving mum after the break, actually, just to tell us what that might feel like. It's kind of a back-to-work day, isn't it, for the Princess? But her statement, John, she is cautious in it, isn't she? I think she's got the tone of this really good.
Yeah,
she says, I'm making good progress, but as anyone going through chemotherapy will know, there are some good days and bad days. And she is very open. On those days you feel weak, tired, and you have to give in to your body resting.
Yeah, no, I think she did that brilliantly. I think the statement was very personal, obviously truthful. I think the problem she has is there are all sorts of people around her who want to sort of dip in and be clever and how about this? And they don't give her a straightforward advice, because I don't think lots of them don't know what they're doing very well. And for example, when she says, I'm not out of the woods, and she's photographed against a tree, is there anyone that realises that these two things coming together might look a bit odd? Is it deliberate? Is she deliberately saying, that's why I'm photographed next to a tree? Or I suspect they hadn't got a clue.
Does it matter?
They didn't match
No, look, I don't know.
Match up the statement.
Look, John, look, you're an intellectual. You're reading into it too much, mate. It's a lovely picture. She's in nature. I think John's just being a smart man that he is.
They need somebody like John on their team who can actually say, you know what, this is actually a contradiction. You know, you say one thing.
Don't do it.
And
just show a bit of finesse, or have someone come forward saying, I've only got one point to make. Be careful with that, because you are going to be.
But maybe I mean, we will get the headlines. We will get the front pages on this show tonight. Maybe the headline will be "Not out of the woods," and there will be the picture of her in Windsor Gardens. And Windsor Gardens. That works for me. I'm all right with that.
Don't you think it's weird that, like John said, she looks so well on that picture, and then we've had all this speculation, and she couldn't have just jumped on a Zoom maybe and had an interview with you, Bev, you know, and just said, you know what, you know, I'm still not feeling well, but, you know, just for 5 minutes, put a bit of blush around. But it's like she looks right as rain there, and it really doesn't look right that you've been out of the picture for 6 months. And yes, we're going to see her tomorrow, but again, it just comes back to really bad.
We need to give her a break. Let's give the woman a break. Come on, she's been through enough. Look, she's allowed to have one nice photo that doesn't get criticism in the press.
We've all got to worry about. We've got to worry about the weather tomorrow.
We're talking a break. Talking a break, Alex. You just gave me the perfect segue there. Right, thank you so much. Right, still to come. The Princess of Wales has said she has some good days and some not so good. So, how must it be handling treatment and illness? How might it be impacting on her? World-leading physician Dr. Carol Sikora is going to give us his expert insight. But also up next, I'm going to speak to one amazing mother of 4 and cancer survivor, Emma Campbell, about how Kate might be feeling ahead of this very public return to the spotlight. This is Patrick Christys Tonight with me, Bev Turner, only on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Taylor Swift is in town Her billion-dollar blockbuster Eras tour will arrive in this country today. What can we expect?
Yes, that's right. This tour has been a long time in the making. It kicked off last March in America, in Arizona. So it's eventually now made its way to the UK, and tonight it will be kick-starting in Edinburgh. It will also have dates in Liverpool, Cardiff, Dublin and London. So needless to say, there is a lot of Swiftie fans on the loose right now. It's like Beatlemania all over again. But what I love about Taylor, though, is the fact that she exudes empowerment, confidence, and she also is such a good role model as well, I think, for the younger generation. She's always had this wholesome image as well. She writes all her own music, she plays lots of different instruments, and she's just an all-round great performer, isn't she?
But she's actually done a whole load of different types of music, hasn't she?
She has, that's right. She started off as a country pop singer and she's now transcended into this mainstream music artist, and she's such a massive reach. Like I say, she's toured around America, South America, Europe and now the UK. She's very much a household name, and I mean, I don't think there's anyone out there who doesn't know who Taylor Swift is right now, like her or not.
She brings in the money. I mean, think about it, not just the ticket sales, but also all of the hotel accommodation people are booking, or the transport, or the extras, the food, the drink, the what do you call it? All the stuff that you buy that goes... Merch. The merch, all of that. The Swiftie merch.
Yeah.
She's a boom to the economy.
The People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians in the media, but it's actually about you.
And we won't ever forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
Now more than ever, it's important to hear
all sides as you make your decision ahead of polling day.
We're here for you.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's election channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting.
I knew her, unlike you. That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
Yeah, for dartball practice. Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Good evening, it's Patrick Christys tonight. With me, Bev Turner, only on GB News. Now, coming up, I'm going to ask cancer expert Carol Sikora how the princess might be affected by her ongoing treatment. But first, Kate has revealed that she has good days and bad days whilst being treated for cancer. And as the parent of 3 young children, the Princess of Wales has had to juggle being a mother and managing her own symptoms. With 50% of families now being affected by cancer in the UK, the Princess is far from alone. I'm delighted to say I'm joined now by podcaster, cancer survivor and mother Emma Campbell. Emma, it's so good to see you, known as Limitless Em on your social media, because you are limitless. When you heard this news tonight about Kate, what went through your mind?
I think more than anything, it's sort of the mother-to-mother feeling, or cancer patient to cancer patient, rather than, you know, who she is in the world's eyes. It's a bit, I imagine, a huge step for her tomorrow. I can only imagine the thoughts going through her head tonight of anticipation and apprehension, but it's a big step.
The Princess is 42. You were 39 when you got your cancer diagnosis, didn't you? And tell us about your situation, if you don't mind. And how long ago was that?
So that was 14 years ago. I was diagnosed, just turned 39. I had baby triplets of 6 months old, and my son was nearly 7. I was a single parent and had a large tumour in my breast. So it was obviously a devastating time. And then I got a secondary diagnosis 4 years later. And then I had the third diagnosis in 2019. So I've been on continuous treatment for 10 years now.
And what is that like? We don't know the treatment that Kate's having. They've said preventative chemotherapy.
Yeah.
What will that involve?
I mean, I can imagine in my sort of naive knowledge that preventative chemotherapy might not be, you know, we don't know whether she's lost her hair or, you know, every chemo for every cancer is different. But I think chemo is chemo, and there are stages within each cycle where you have good days, you have bad days. The fatigue, however you look to the outside world, there's always something very different going on inside, emotionally, physically. So I noticed, you know, in her statement, there are good days and bad days. So, and you really do, I think everyone would agree, you want to seize the good days. So, you know, tomorrow, I'm sure she'll be putting all her energy and focus into tomorrow, getting through it in whatever way she can. And then there might be you know, a bit of a come down on the next day, fatigue, exhaustion. And hopefully she's listening to her own body and doing what's exactly right for her.
We've had the statement from the Princess, and then you and I were looking at a Q&A that the Palace had provided as well, just answering some really basic questions. And what struck me from that was there are a lot of caveats for the media about the fact that she may not be on the balcony. They reserve the right, effectively, to change the schedule if that's required. What might cause her to change tomorrow's sequence of events? Will it be that fatigue?
I think, and I'm so glad that there are all those caveats, because I think that shows that she's being put first. You know, her well-being and on every level is the priority. And it has to be her decision at any moment to say, actually, she might wake up tomorrow morning and just make a different decision. It could be fatigue, it could be nausea, it could also be overwhelm. You know, it's a huge, whether you go through a cancer diagnosis or any kind of life trauma, you emerge as a different person in a way. So this is her first step back into the public eye on a global level. It's very overwhelming. And then knowing the opinions, the expectations, and even with her children thinking, well, mummy's almost back to work. Does that mean she's fine?
Yeah.
You know, and people make decisions that actually, but there's, from my point of view, what I've always talked so sort of passionately about is the emotional aspect. You know, we all experience chemotherapy and react to it differently. It can be absolutely brutal and blindsiding. But often,
and feels what the majority of that sensation is the nausea.
I think fatigue, nausea.
And we know that poor Kate had terrible pregnancy sickness. She had hyperemesis gravida for all of her pregnancy.
I mean, anti-nausea medication is incredible. I've got friends who... I was speaking to someone the other day at the hospital who was saying, you know, if it wasn't for I said, how's the nausea? And she said, well, the medication is amazing for nausea. And that's great. There's, you know, there's so much. She'll be getting every bit of help and support and medication and things to ease the side effects as is available.
And she says in her statement, doesn't she, about the fact that when she is well and when she does feel up to it, she's enjoying the school, being involved with the school, being involved with the family. What's that like when you wake up and you know it's a day when you can do more than the day before?
When it's a day like that, it's a day of normality, and normality is what a cancer patient, a cancer survivor, any of us want. That's what I call the magical mundane. And for her, many things in her life might not be mundane, but she's still a mum. And to take your kids to school or to be helping them with their homework, making toast or whatever it is, they're the things that you long for when you've had that diagnosis, when you're sitting in the chemo chair, when you don't know what the future holds, when you're lying awake at night, terrified. We all crave and yearn for what we call just the normality, the day-to-day stuff that so many of us take for granted.
Even if your normality is standing on a balcony in front of billions of people all around the world.
Exactly. But for her, it is almost like a kind of phased return. And, you know, and I think just like any employers almost, you know, there has to be adjustments and awareness of that individual, like I said, however they look, however they seem, however beautiful she's looking tomorrow internally. And she might be feeling great and she'll get so much from being
from
there.
The crowd as well.
But also, she's going to be, I imagine, feeling such a range of emotions.
When she made that video that we just showed earlier, partly in reaction to the pressure from the public for answers, because we do treat the royal family like the little doll's house that we like to take out and play, don't we? And we put them away and we project all sorts of narratives onto them. When she made that statement, I was just really touched by the fact that she named the children when she said, Mike, I'm concerned about Charlotte, Louis and George. And it really humanised for me the fact that it is the children. What was that like for you, having those series of difficult conversations, which you presumably still have to have with them now that they're teenagers?
Yeah, with my children, I mean, it really does depend on the stage your children are at, and I think it's a question that many of us get asked, you know, so often. How do we talk to our children? How do we explain things? My children have seen me. I'm very fortunate in long periods of remission. My eldest son is the one that saw me with no hair and kind of, you know...
Because he was old enough to remember it.
Yeah, whereas the younger ones, they see me as, oh, mum's going for treatment. And in a way, sometimes I'd like a little bit more kind of, you know, awareness. But no, that's a blessing in my situation. But I think I imagine her main focus will be just wanting to feel like mum and wanting to do. As much as the help is appreciated, you want to be doing those things yourself. You want to be.
Yeah. You, of course, you were very good friends with Deborah James, Bowel Babe, who we lost last year. That time's gone.
Nearly 2 years.
Nearly 2 years ago now. And she did so much to raise awareness of cancer and treatments and checking yourself and all of the brilliant work that Deborah did. And her mum continues to do, actually, as well now. I wonder if in the fullness of time, Kate will talk more about what she's been through and become an advocate for cancer care.
I'd be surprised if she didn't.
Yeah.
Because I think fundamentally it has such a enormous effect, and not all of those effects are negative. You know, we can find, many of us have found a real sense of purpose, and okay, ideally you don't want it to come from a potentially life-limiting, threatening disease, but your perspective and your outlook you look at life through a very different lens. And whoever you are, you know, royalty or not, life is different. It has a different look. So I would be very surprised if in some way this doesn't shape her focus, her intentions, her plans, and she'll use her voice, I'm sure, in the most effective way that she can.
Well, everyone will be on the edge of our seats tomorrow, actually, won't we? Just wanting to see her back.
I just hope that she has the day that she needs, and it's a sign of progress. But I hope she's got all of the gentleness around her that she needs as well, and I hope she's gentle with herself.
OK. Emma, thank you so much. Emma Campbell. Now, coming up, after months out of the spotlight, Princess Kate will make her comeback, as we say, at this weekend's Trooping the Colour. Editor-at-large of the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths, will be here to give me the inside track on what else to expect at this blockbuster royal event. But first, the Princess is still bound to be affected by her recent health issues, and world-leading physician Dr. Karol Sikora will be beaming in live to tell us his take as a doctor. That's next on Patrick Christys Tonight with me, Bev Turner, only on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Further showers are expected over the next 24 hours and beyond, with prolonged rain at times, but also some clear spells in between the downpours. Low pressure is currently stationed to the west-northwest of Scotland, and around that low we've got a gusty wind bringing frequent showers into much of the UK, but also some longer spells of rain. One such area of rain affecting northern Scotland through the evening, and then another band of rain pushing into Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and the southwest during the early hours. So a lively night to come with some heavy rain at times and that gusty wind, but some clear spells as well. And where we've got the clear spells, temperatures dipping into the single figures or even the mid-single figures in some of the cooler spots, for example, central Scotland. But for the north of Scotland, we keep the wet weather going on Saturday morning, particularly for Shetland. Some outbreaks of rain there for Orkney. But for much of the mainland of Scotland, it's dry. Best of the sunshine of the day will be in the morning on Saturday. Thicker cloud into southern Scotland, northern England, and this band of rain just affecting parts of Northern Ireland, into the Midlands, the southeast as well. Some heavy downpours before a mix of sunny spells and blustery showers push into South Wales and the southwest of England. That develops more widely across the UK, so really it's a case of bright spells and heavy showers out there on Saturday afternoon. You certainly will need your umbrella at hand if you're heading out, even if it's sunny when you leave the house. But There will be some longer spells of rain, particularly for northwest England, southern Scotland, for example. Even some thunderstorms out there. So, an unpleasant day for many places, highs of 17 or 18 Celsius. Sunday starts off a little brighter and drier across England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland sees a band of rain push south. That breaks up to become more of a showery feature into the afternoon. And in between the showers, there will be some sunshine once again. A drying up trend then into Monday and Tuesday with fewer showers and a better chance of some sunshine.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes and Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
This is GB News and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians in the media, but actually it's about you.
And we won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear
all sides
as you make your decision ahead of polling day.
We're here for you.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's election channel.
Good evening, it's Bev, this is Bev Turner on Patrick Christys tonight. I'm not Patrick Christys. This is his show, of course, though. Still to come, Reform UK overtake the Tories in the latest polling, but does that mean Nigel Farage should be included in all of the debates? First, though, Princess Kate has been notably absent, of course, since the back end of last year, after announcing in March that she was going through preventative chemotherapy for cancer, which was discovered during medical tests. She's now announced she's going to return to public duty tomorrow, but admitted that she has good days and bad days which can leave her feeling weak and tired. So, how will the Princess be affected by her ongoing treatment? We now welcome world-leading physician Dr. Carol Sikora. Good evening, Carol. Great to see you. First of all, your response to this long-awaited news that she will be back in the public eye tomorrow.
It's great news. It really is, because it means that she's well enough to appear and there are no problems. She's having what she calls preventive therapy, preventive chemotherapy, to prevent the recurrence of the disease. We've been asked not to speculate about what the type of cancer she has is, so we won't do that. But there's no doubt that she's doing well. She's tolerating the treatment. Treatment takes a lot out of you, as we've heard in the last 15 minutes. It really does. And it's enormously variable. You get good days, you get bad days, you feel sick, you feel tired. The worst thing is the tiredness. But I'm sure tomorrow it's a great, exciting day. The Trooping of the Colour, fantastic. She'll be there. She'll look great. I can guarantee it.
I'm sure. And, you know, we're all looking forward. Like I say, you don't realise what an important part of the royal family she is until she isn't in the pictures that we all see. We spoke to some of the public earlier and they were saying we just can't wait to even see what she's wearing. It just feels like a return, hopefully, to some sort of normality. But the palace have been at pains to point out this is not her returning to work, is it? This is an occasion that she wants to attend.
It's a special occasion tomorrow, and she's still going to feel not that great until it's all over, and then it will take another month to recover when all the drugs go out of the body, all the side effects go. We're great at treating side effects now. We've heard about the anti-sickness medication. It's really much better than when I began as an oncologist a long time ago. But the problem is still you feel this dreadful tiredness, and also you're worried, the uncertainty of what's going to happen next. That's the problem all cancer patients face. The good thing that comes out of this is that people with cancer understand that even royals get cancer. With the king, the princess, it means that they feel, well, maybe it's not so bad. And more than 50% of cancer patients are cured of their disease, and it's increasing every year. So much greater hope. So she's doing the right thing for cancer patients around the world, because everyone's watching, not just here, everywhere around the world.
And she does talk about the fact that when she said, as I was just saying there to Emma Campbell, that when she's well, she said, I'm making good progress. But as anyone going through chemotherapy will know, there are good days and bad days. What's your advice as a doctor to cancer survivors, patients, when they're having a bad day? What's the best thing that they can do?
Let your body teach you what to do. Your body's very wise. If you feel tired, that means you should lie down. Watch daytime TV, read magazines, do nothing, go to sleep, whatever you want to do. Don't push it. It's enormously variable. So I've had patients that go jogging after they've had a shot of chemotherapy. It's amazing. Go jogging around Regent's Park. This is crazy, you'd think. But that's their way of handling it. Then they go back, have a beer or something and lie down. It's up to individuals. It's a very individual thing. And I think she's doing it her own way. And all cancer patients do that. And nothing to be afraid going to bed.
She does say in the statement, actually, she said, I'm learning how to be patient, especially with uncertainty, taking each day as it comes, listening to my body and allowing myself to take this much needed time to heal. When you are a busy working mother, which is what she is, that's not easy, though, is it? She was, you only have to look at her to know that she was very fit and healthy, is not overweight, lives a healthy life, and obviously kind of probably runs on fumes most days anyway, like a lot of working mums do. So she won't find it easy, will she, to slow down?
No, and she's very young to have cancer. The average age is much older than her. It is increasing in young people. It's a very worrying feature over the last 20 years. It's increased in young people, all sorts of cancers. The problem for her, of course, she's got a family, she's got a lifestyle that's very demanding. And the biggest problem cancer patients have, I find, is living with uncertainty. They don't know what's going to happen next, and they're waiting for the next scan to see if they're doing well and so on. And this is tremendously psychologically pressurizing for them. So, the most important thing is to have people that care for you around you, people you can talk to, and she certainly has that, and it's great to see.
We've seen the Prince of Wales sort of be asked by members of the public when he's been making appearances that it's members of the public, it's the little old ladies who've been brave enough to ask him, how is Kate, dear? And that's all we've heard is he said, she's doing fine, thank you, she's getting better, etc. But in your experience, when you've got a young couple like that with a young family, what kind of toll does it take on the partner?
It's quite considerable, there's no doubt, because everyone's asking. You don't have to be a royal to have the same problem. People are going to ask, your friends, your school kids, children are going to ask what's going on. And it's always very difficult in a family structure to know what information to give to whom. And I think, the royals have handled it very well, both the king and the princess. They've handled the public relations component very well. They don't want to tell everything, but they're telling the majority of it. And I think in that way, you bring cancer out into the open. 50 years ago, when I first qualified as a doctor, you wouldn't even tell people you had. You would certainly not tell that the king has got cancer or the princess has got cancer. That's all changed. We're all open. And, when George V had cancer, no one knew. He had lung cancer and died of lung cancer, and no one knew he had it. And he had the operation in Buckingham Palace rather than at the Brompton Hospital. The doctors came to him, to the palace, to do the operation. Amazing change over the last, 80 years, basically.
Queen Camilla said the other day, didn't she, that the king doesn't always do as he's told, she said, when she's asking him to slow down. I quite like that, because I imagine, I don't know in your experience, but a positive mindset and feeling purposeful must inevitably have an impact on recovery.
Well, I think psychologically it certainly does, just doing your own thing, going your own way, doing what you want to do, doing as much, like the guy going jogging after chemotherapy. How can you stop it? It's fantastic.
And also the children, just one last word really on the children. As Emma Campbell was saying there, it's very difficult to know what to say in these situations, isn't it, to children? Because the assumption might be, oh, well, mummy's going back to work, we're going to be back at the event, we're going to be at granddad's house, and, you know, this is mummy going back into the public eye, then she must be fine. How do they moderate the messaging to the kids?
It is difficult. It's always challenging, and different children at different ages require different messages. Yeah. They realise mummy's ill and having treatment, obviously, but they don't understand the significance of it. How much should you tell them of the significance? And I think, you know, at the age they are, Kate's children, you probably wouldn't talk about the significance of it. You just say she's being treated and everything's going to be okay. And it probably will be. That's the great thing about it. It's always difficult to know what to say to children.
Yeah, well, tomorrow feels like a step in the right direction, does it not? Thank you so much for your time on a Friday night, cancer specialist and all-round amazing Dr. Carol Sikora there. Thank you so much for joining us on GB News. Now, coming up, as Reform UK overtake the Tories in the polls, should Nigel Farage take part in the upcoming BBC four-way leaders debate? We're going to be debating that just after 10. But next, the trooping of the colour, not of the colour, it's trooping the colour. I said trooping of the colour on Thursday, and Andrew Pearce told me off for that and said it wasn't correct, and he will be hosting the coverage on GB News tomorrow. It's a landmark event here on GB News. The Princess of Wales is making a comeback after months out of the public spotlight due to health issues. The Mail on Sunday's Charlotte Griffiths offers her forensic royal analysis of this whole event. After the break, this is Patrick Christys Tonight with me, Bev Turner.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Plenty of mixers, plenty of lovely gin.
Yes.
What have you got here for us? Just explain what you've brought in.
So today I'm going to be presenting the Cotswolds Dry Gin and the Cotswolds Wildflower Gin. Ooh. So the first one that was introduced into our market was the Cotswolds Dry Gin. Now we have 9 different types of botanicals. We introduce into our pot still. We introduce well, obviously juniper berries because it's a London Dry. Angelica roots and coriander seeds, giving it that little limey flavour. Also, cardamom seeds, then black peppercorn, giving it a little spice. Ooh. And then the part that is more interesting that regards to the pouring, we have the grapefruit peel and the lime peel. We're going to start with the Cotswolds Dry. Okay, so the first one introduced.
So Ellie was taking the mick out of me this morning because I said my favourite gin was, what is it, pink lemonade?
You like a pink gin and lemonade, yes.
You called me, I'm going to say what you said. You said that's a bit girly.
As you see, it turned into cloudy. Those are the oils of the spices because we don't filter it. Our gin is completely unfiltered.
Got it.
I love this. It's 11:52. It's never too early. Cheers.
Cheers.
And would you have any, this sounds very juvenile, would you have any snacks with gin? Or does it ruin it?
Olives.
Ah, you can tell your culture.
It depends on how you're drinking it and where you are, like what you're actually going to do with it. But you can have pretty much all sorts. As long as it stays on the salty side, that's what I would go for personally.
A salty snack.
Yeah, that's what I would go for.
So olives, would you say, is that a good choice? Or is it all crisp nuts?
They're quite salty olives, aren't they?
It depends on your taste, really. Like personally, I wouldn't go for it, but I have seen. And the culture behind gin is drastically increased over the years. The flavours are all different.
That's really good.
Exactly. You see what I mean?
Oh, very nice.
Like that zesty, floral kind of flavour coming through. They're absolutely stunning, aren't they?
The People's Channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting.
I knew her, unlike you. That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frothy in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice. Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. This is Patrick Christys tonight with me, Bev Turner, on GB News. Still to come, should Nigel Farage take part in the upcoming BBC four-way leaders debates? But first, editor-at-large of the Mail on Sunday, Charlotte Griffiths, joins me for tonight's Royal Dispatch. And what a special Royal Dispatch it is tonight. We're marking, of course, tomorrow the King's official birthday with Trooping the Colour Parade. I can confirm, if you've just turning on, that the Princess of Wales will be taking part in the celebrations. In a candid statement, she said she is making good progress and has good days and bad days, adding, "I'm not out of the woods yet." It's going to be the Princess's first public appearance since Christmas, as she stepped back from official duties since announcing her cancer diagnosis in March. It's also going to be the King's first Trooping the Colour since his cancer diagnosis, and he's expected to inspect the soldiers taking part from a carriage rather than on horseback. Charlotte Griffiths joins me now. Right, Charlotte, first of all, your reaction when you heard that Kate will be back tomorrow?
I was so happy, not that surprised. I had a little bit of an inkling, but nobody dared really say one way or another in the press. But we have been sort of needling Palace aides and saying, no, is she going to be there? And they haven't said no, basically. Now, recently, there have been crazy rumours about Kate on the internet, and the Palace comes down like a ton of bricks and says, no, that's not true. So when we said, is it true she's going to be on the balcony, and we got nothing, we thought, oh, that's interesting. You know, maybe there's something there. But like everything, and like we've learned from Charles, you know, you just don't know anything until the day, or in this case, the very day before. And they have had that policy all along with Charles, that just don't confirm anything until practically the day of, because you never know how they might be feeling on the day. But clearly this has been building up for quite some time.
Because it was a recent appearance with William, wasn't it, where somebody asked him, like I just said before to Carol Sakura, the little old ladies that he meets are braver at asking him the questions that the journalists won't. And that's when you often hear the inside information. I think he said Kate would have loved to have been here today, didn't he?
Yeah, and that she's getting better. And whereas we, the press and the media, have made a pact, really, that we're not going to constantly ask how she is and ask for updates, because she does need space. But as you say, the little old ladies, they're the nosiest ones, even more nosy than us.
They don't
just
care,
want to know.
do they?
Yeah, they don't care. And it was very heartening to see how William was out and about answering those questions. And also just the fact that he's been out and about a lot more recently suggests that at home, Kate isn't totally reliant on him, and maybe, you know, we were starting to get a feeling, a flavour that she was building up strength.
Because the D-Day celebrations, of course, is where he was asked those questions. And I don't know about you, but I didn't realise how much I like, just on a really simple level, watching the Princess of Wales until she's not there.
Yeah.
She's just a joy to watch, isn't she? Whether you're a royalist or not, she's always graceful, she's always beautiful, glamorous. Poised.
Yeah. She's
just fabulous. And I think we just miss her presence.
Totally, and don't forget she's got 1 point higher in the opinion poll ratings than William, and he's not jealous of her for that, by the way. I think he's really proud of her. And as you say, she wears the bright colours, she wears elegant clothes. She looks like a fashion model. She's just incredibly tall and elegant, and that glamour is sorely missing from the royal family. You know, Beatrice is providing a little bit of it at the moment, and Eugenie as well. And of course, we've long since lost Meghan, who provided that sort of young female glamour, and so they really need Kate for that.
What else do we expect tomorrow from this huge event, publicised broadcast on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Ellie Costello tomorrow? But what else can we see?
Well, it's just this incredible celebration of the King, and also everything British. It's the best of British. It's pomp and circumstance and animals, quite animal heavy. So we're going to see 3 of the horses that trampled through London, that galloped off through London. They've made a recovery and they are going to be back. So we'll be kind of keeping an eye on them.
So they were injured, if people remember. There was that footage, and one of them went into a double-decker bus, I think, and injured themselves, and they were bleeding in the street. So they're going to be making a return.
That one actually is quite ill, but although that horse is getting better, but 3 of them, 3 out of the 5 are going to be there. So that's going to be quite a big moment. And obviously for the cavalry and the guards, it's nice to see their horses back. They're very fond of these animals, you know. And then there's going to be Seamus, the Irish wolfhound, which everybody loves. Kate loves Seamus, the Irish wolfhound. He'll be on parade, but most importantly, the royals will be on parade. So we'll see Anne on horseback, William on horseback, Prince Edward on horseback. Charles won't be on horseback. He's going to be in an Ascot Landau carriage, and Catherine will also be in a carriage with her children, actually. So I mean, herding 3 children into this massive royal occasion is quite a thing.
That's
even if you're very,
stressful
very well.
on a normal day.
Yes, I've got 3 kids. It takes a lot of energy. So that's actually a really important part of Kate's presence there. I think she wants to support her husband, William, who'll be on horseback. And, of course, the King, who she's very, very fond of. And it really means a lot to the King, actually. It's a proper family occasion.
What did you think of her statement written by her? Do you think she got the tone right? Given they've had a series of PR disasters in handling this in the last 6 months, I thought it was really well done. There's not an awful lot that you could criticise in it, is there?
I think the thing that is clear from that statement is that it's hers. And what might have happened in that PR disaster a few weeks ago, and that they've learnt from, is that maybe her involvement, it was a little bit more the aides were possibly involved in that whole debacle with the photo, and this was clearly her saying, right, I'm going to do this. I know how it's
She's
done.
done that mum of 3 thing. If you want a job doing properly, you do it yourself. She's got out her laptop and she's written it herself.
Yeah, and that's why everyone's going to adore this statement, because it's very, very personal for a royal, and it's clearly come from her. It's not stage-managed PR, and it's an election at the moment, so we're seeing all these sort of stage-managed statements from politicians, and this just cuts through all that and says, look, I'm just a woman. I mean, not a politician, but I'm a woman speaking from the heart and telling you the truth about my recovery.
She does also go on to say, I'm looking forward to attending the parade this weekend and hope to join a few public engagements over the summer, but equally knowing I'm not out of the woods yet. It's very carefully worded, that, isn't it, Charlotte?
They're being so careful. They have to be, because if she commits to this being her comeback, and a lot of people are calling it a comeback, and I don't think that's right, because this is an appearance, and there might be more appearances, but I honestly don't see her full-time back in duties till maybe Christmas. And that's just me speculating. But, that is sort of what we've heard a little bit. Yeah, I think they're just being very cautious. They don't want to have a situation where she's committed to something other than tomorrow, and this is just tomorrow, that then she pulls out of, and then the media and the internet and Twitter goes crazy and says, oh, my God, she's keeled over, which she probably won't have done. So it's just a very sensible and clever way to manage it.
We were also, John Sargent was sort of slightly poking fun at the statement, I'm not out of the woods yet, with a picture of her in the woods.
Yeah.
But I don't mind that. I wouldn't be surprised if the front pages, which will land, in half an hour or so, 40 minutes, have the headline is, I'm not out of the woods yet, with a picture of her in the woods. It's quite nice.
It's quite nice, very clever. And also, she's a photographer. She didn't take this picture, obviously, because she's in it, but she didn't get family members. She actually got a photographer in.
Do we know who he is? Do we know much about that
He's not the
photographer?
usual one, Chris Jackson, actually. He's a different one. But presumably there's a lot of pressure on this because they can't airbrush at all. I think John's probably right. I think probably it was, they thought of this. She's a very bright girl. She knows the media. She's been doing this for, decades now.
Yeah.
And so she probably did think, and I wouldn't be surprised, we'll find out in sort of an hour, I think that probably will be the headlines.
Yeah, and I think it works. I don't think she should be criticised for that at all.
No, it's a great stroke of genius, and, all the headline writers of Fleet Street will be thanking her.
Joanna Jarju, one of our panellists who'll be back in just a little while, she was saying that because the princess looks well in this photograph, she hasn't lost her hair, there was speculation, would she look gaunt and tired? She looks herself, and thank goodness for that. But she was saying, if she does look like herself, why haven't we seen her sooner? And that does play into that slight tension between the royal family and the public and the extent to which we have been allowed into this private story.
Well, I think we did see her in March looking gaunt and ill, I'm afraid, and it was really worrying. The whole nation then worried about her.
She did look tired in that video, you're right.
She did actually, and she looked thin, and she was in very early stages of her cancer, and I have heard that she's really turned a corner with her recovery and her treatment, which she found quite hard at first. But just because she's looking well doesn't mean we should expect to see her on parade every single day working 24/7, because just because you look good on the outside doesn't mean that you feel perfect all the time or that you can be on parade in front of the whole world. And as she said, good days and bad days. And, I think, the fact she's looking well is a good sign, but let's not pressure her.
And what is that relationship like between the palace and the press now, would you say? And how has it been affected in the last 6 months?
Well, I think they got a bit of a hard time from the press because, a lot of the press was sort of blamed for hounding her out while she was trying to keep her cancer a secret from the kids. But, of course, we would say, on our side of the fence, well, you photoshopped this photo, and it only served to, make us all speculate and worry, really, about her. So I think there definitely was a lot of tension with the press and her aides, but I think that's kind of settled down. As you said earlier, I think she's probably taken charge behind the scenes and said, look, I actually probably am the biggest pro in this room. If you see Kate in a room of aides, she's the one that knows better than any of them, because she's been doing this since she was a teenager, really, when she first met William.
Yeah.
So I think by also writing that statement herself, that there'll be less of a war between the press and Kensington Palace, because we're realising it's her, it's not her aides this time.
OK, all right, fantastic. Thank you, Charlotte. Charlotte Griffiths there, editor-at-large for The Mail on Sunday. Now, still to come, as Oxford University is forced to cancel exams after pro-Palestine protesters stormed the world-famous campus. Is enough being done to protect British students from disruption to their studies? Oxford University student Connor Boyle will tell us how he is feeling after all of this kerfuffle at the university this week. But next, with Reform overtaking the Conservatives in the poll, are they now the true opposition to Starmer's Labour Party? And should Nigel Farage be featured in all the future leadership debates? Should do, shouldn't he? This is Patrick Christys tonight with me, Bev Turner, on GB News. Now your weather with Alex Deakin.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Further showers are expected over the next 24 hours and beyond, with prolonged rain at times, but also some clear spells in between the downpours. Low pressure is currently stationed to the west-northwest of Scotland, and around that low we've got a gusty wind bringing frequent showers into much of the UK, but also some longer spells of rain. One such area of rain affecting northern Scotland through the evening, and then another band of rain pushing into Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and the southwest during the early hours. So a lively night to come with some heavy rain at times and that gusty wind, but some clear spells as well. And where we've got the clear spells, temperatures dipping into the single figures or even the mid-single figures in some of the cooler spots, for example, central Scotland. But for the north of Scotland, we keep the wet weather going on Saturday morning, particularly for Shetland. Some outbreaks of rain there for Orkney. But for much of the mainland of Scotland, it's dry. Best of the sunshine of the day will be in the morning on Saturday. Thicker cloud into southern Scotland, northern England, and this band of rain just affecting parts of Northern Ireland, into the Midlands, the southeast as well. Some heavy downpours before a mix of sunny spells and blustery showers push into South Wales and the southwest of England. That develops more widely across the UK, so really it's a case of bright spells and heavy showers out there on Saturday afternoon. You certainly will need your umbrella at hand if you're heading out, even if it's sunny when you leave the house. But there will be some longer spells of rain, particularly for northwest England, southern Scotland, for example. Even some thunderstorms out there. So an unpleasant day for many places, highs of 17 or 18 Celsius. Sunday starts off a little brighter and drier across England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland sees a band of rain push south. That breaks up to become more of a showery feature into the afternoon. And in between the showers, there will be some sunshine once again. A drying up trend then into Monday and Tuesday with fewer showers and a better chance of some sunshine.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
We're making this summer funner with 3 incredible prizes to be won. First, a fantastic £15,000 in tax-free cash that you can spend on anything you like. Next, there's the latest iPhone 15 with a brand new set of Apple AirPods. And finally, £500 to spend at the UK attraction of your choice. The summer fun could be on us. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes and Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
10 o'clock on Friday night, I'm Bev Turner in for Patrick Christys this evening.
We are now the real opposition.
Reform UK have overtaken the Tories in the latest polls, so should Nigel Farage be included in every leadership debate? Plus...
Stop the bombing now, 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 now! We are the people! We won't be silent!
Idiotic pro-Palestine protesters have forced Oxford University into cancelling end-of-year exams. So are British students being failed once again? Also, the Princess of Wales will return to public duties tomorrow amid her ongoing cancer battle. We've got all the reaction from tomorrow's front pages in tonight's press pack. And on my panel tonight, it's broadcasting heavyweight John Sargent, Apprentice star Joanna Jarju and political commentator Alex Armstrong. And what on earth is going on in Italian Parliament? Strap yourselves in, let's do this. Our Reform UK now, the real opposition to Starmer's Labour Party. That's next.
Bev, thank you very much. Some breaking news to start this bulletin. And Scotland have lost their opening game against Germany at the Euros. A nightmare opener for Scotland, who were down to 10 men after Ryan Porteous was sent off before half-time, by which time Germany were already 3 goals up. And 4-0 down into the second half, Scotland did manage to pull one back in the dying minutes of the game, but it wasn't to be, as Germany scored another in extra time, making it 5-1. King Charles is delighted that the Princess of Wales is to attend his birthday parade tomorrow, also known as Trooping the Colour. The update is accompanied by a new photograph of the Princess, taken by photographer Matt Porteous. Princess Kate says she's making good progress after her cancer diagnosis earlier this year. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he's also delighted that she's attending the event and that the whole country is behind her. In a statement, Princess Catherine says she's been blown away by the kind messages of support, but she says she's not out of the woods yet. Members of the public in London are delighted with the news.
I'm glad that she's doing better, and I can't wait to see what she wears as well.
Oh, it's completely wonderful. I mean, it's wonderful for all of us who've cared about her for so long.
I'm really pleased to hear she's doing well. I think, obviously, she's a mum, and the most important thing is that she can be there for her children.
I'm pretty sure that this news is great news to the country, and it's a motivation for a lot of people that are battling cancer. Thank you.
Rishi Sunak says he will stay on as Prime Minister if he wins the election and stay on as an MP if he loses. Speaking to reporters whilst at the G7 summit in Italy, Mr Sunak also said the only poll that matters is election day. It comes after Nigel Farage says Reform UK is now the opposition after a YouGov poll put them on 1% ahead of the Conservative Party. Labour's still well ahead on 37%, down 1 point, while the Liberal Democrats also lost a point, scoring 14%, with the Greens on 7.
They're still pumping out the same line, that if you vote for reform, you will get Labour. But the inflection point means that actually, if you vote Conservative in the red wall, you will almost certainly get Labour. A Conservative vote in the red wall is now a wasted vote. We are the challengers to Labour. We are now the real opposition.
The Labour leader says he's willing to make enemies to make the UK economy grow. Earlier, the Labour Party announced specialist mental health hubs would be set up under a Labour government to help get people back to work. An extra 8,500 new staff would be recruited to boost access to mental health support and ultimately get the economy back on track. Now, in a sit-down interview this evening, Sir Keir Starmer reaffirmed his position that the country under him would not go back to austerity. And he says he's ready to make tough decisions to grow the economy.
We're going to have to be tough. We're going to have to change the way things are done. I'll give you one short example. I won't take long, but it makes my point. I spoke to the CEO of an energy company, say, how long would it take you to put a wind turbine farm up? He said I could do it in 2 years. He said you wouldn't get any power out of it for 13 years because I'd lose 5 years to planning, another 6 or 7 years before the grid connected. We cannot go on like that.
Let me give you another example, if I could.
Decisions.
And for the latest stories, sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now it's back to Bev.
There are rare days in politics when the tectonic plates shift beneath our feet. Today was one of those days. Reform UK have officially overtaken the Conservatives in a YouGov poll at 19 against 18% of your votes. The former Brexit Party's new leader, Nigel Farage, is now demanding to be taken seriously and included in the BBC's four-way leaders debate. Also today, some research suggesting that viewers who choose us over boring old establishment media might be more inclined to vote Reform. To be clear, this is very much at odds with GB News' own recent polling, which found that you at home were leaning towards Labour. Maybe the Farage effect has already kicked in, who knows? Either way, a shifting political paradigm and your disruptive thinking has seriously wound up some establishment figures. The BBC's John Sopel clutched his pearls and tweeted that it was alarming, claiming that you only tune in to us to be affirmed rather than informed. That is rubbish, John. He appears to consider the electorate having more or less the same voting intention across legacy news channels as a positive. Why? Most people think politics is boring, voter apathy is rife and nothing works. The dusty old political status quo is clearly not working. Of course, the left repeatedly conclude that you can't be trusted to make up your own minds through hearing a wide range of diverse opinions. We do not provide you with an echo chamber because you're too stupid to think. It is the polar opposite. You come here to us to think, and then you're free to make new and disruptive choices if you wish. And if we rattle a few political elites along the way, so be it. Nigel Farage began his press conference today by saying, something is happening out there. Yes, it is. And that is what free speech and democracy looks like. Let's get thoughts on my panel now. Former BBC chief correspondent John Sargent, political commentator Joanna Jarju and political commentator Alex Armstrong have given up their Friday night to sit here with me, and I wear high heels, so it takes me a little longer to get across the studio than Patrick. Right, thank you all so much for joining us. Alex, what did you make of this polling about Reform overtaking the Tories?
I'm ecstatic about it. It's finally showing the Tories a clear message that after years, decade of failing to deliver their manifesto and anything remotely conservative, that a real Conservative Party has shown up out of the blue and is kicking them in the tails. Nigel Farage's comeback into politics has really shaken and rattled the established political parties. Even Labour are now attacking Nigel Farage. They put an attack out on Twitter today. So they're really rattled. And it's really, really interesting that Nigel wants to take part in this four-way debate, which he should be, as now the official opposition, which he is. He's the second most popular party in the country. He should have that moment on stage with it. Yes, he should. And do you know what? Just want to say one thing, because what everyone's going to tell you is the same old rubbish they tell you, which is because he's not got a seat, because the Reform haven't got any seats, they don't deserve to have a voice.
Absolutely.
You're now denying millions of people their party leader up on stage to tell them exactly what he's going to stand for.
Alex, are you trying to pretend that, like, Nigel Farage has been gagged or something all the way through this election period? He hasn't. He's been on stage. He was there the other day with Angela Rayner. He was there with the rest of the leaders. Why does he have to be involved in every single thing? Maybe next time, chill this time, and maybe next time we'll give you an opportunity.
So you're saying someone who's going to win more votes than Ed Davey and the SNP is not allowed to be... Yes, he's going to get more votes. By the polls today, he's going to get more votes than Ed Davey and the leader of the SNP.
And Carla Denyer of the Greens.
And the Greens, combined,
Can I just say, he's going to get more votes, but is he going to get any seats?
But that's exactly the problem, and he needs to be the person up on stage saying why that's not going to happen, because the public need to be informed.
He's had that platform, but until you actually have the opportunity to prove yourself, Nigel Farage himself might not even get his seat. Every other day he's getting pelted with something, whether it's rocks or a milkshake or something like that.
Yeah, because the left of Ireland, the left want to shut him up.
He might not even win his seat, Alex. Let's actually wait until you've proven yourself, have got into the House of Commons. Let's not forget that, you know, Jeremy Corbyn in the last election, I think he won like 32% of the vote share, which was more than Gordon Brown, and which was more than Ed Miliband as well. And look at the, you know, when the Red Wall was basically smashed by the Tories, would you then say that Jeremy Corbyn probably would have...
but he was allowed to take part in the leaders' debates,
well,
wasn't he?
yes, because he actually had a significant party. They have not proved themselves.
This is what's wrong with our democracy, is people like Joanna.
7 times, and he's going to fail once again, in my opinion.
John, Reform are polling higher than the current government. I know there are no MPs at the moment, but... Nigel should surely be on that stage.
I think he should be, yeah. And if I was the BBC, I certainly wouldn't cancel him. This is what it would amount to. And people would be then so sort of, oh, the BBC's deciding what the election should be. It's called a general election. It's not called a discussion among MPs. They're not MPs anymore. He's obviously been the most important figure that's come onto the stage during the election campaign. He's affected a very large number of votes. We already can see that. And if you miss him out, it would seem as if that's vindictive and small-minded.
It would seem like censorship.
And also it would give the impression that the BBC can't take it. Almost, goodness me, that this extra parliamentary force is beyond our thinking. Well, that is absurd. The BBC are tough people. I know. I worked with them for 30 years. And the idea that they couldn't cope with all this, no, put another seat in there and say, yeah, we'll come to you in a moment.
Joanna.
But I mean, don't then treat him as if he's some wonderful thing, and don't go on in this sort of advertising. Now we see Nigel Farage. Just keep calm. He's a party leader. Put him in.
Is it because you don't like his politics that you think he shouldn't be there?
No, it's not even that. I just think that he hasn't proved himself enough.
Nonsense,
you know,
Joanna.
I see Reform, and I see, you know, previously the Brexit Party. I see it as more of a protest vote by people. And, you know, somebody could say, well, Count Binface is the protest vote for the majority of people because they're just sick of the Tories and they're sick of, you know, this broken country that we live in at the moment. Doesn't mean that I necessarily want Count Binface to necessarily do every single debate. And I think that it's important to acknowledge that it's not that Nigel Farage has been censored. He did one, I think it was last week, literally, with Angela Rayner, and he had his moment.
Can I just say,
and he did very well.
John made a really good point.
Doesn't need to be on everything.
John and Beth made a great point. There are no seats at the moment. There is 0 seats for any party, right? So Nigel Farage is on an equal playing field to everybody. So this message that you need to be represented in a seat is nonsense, because if you're an emerging political party, you could be the most popular party, never have had a seat before, you could be polling 40%, and the likes of Joanna would say you're not allowed to be in the leadership debate,
also,
which is a complete establishment stitch-up if it happens.
I know, we mustn't be harming Joanna there, that's important.
Be nice to me.
Oh, you're fine. You can take it. I'm not worried about you, Joanna.
The point is, of course, where Nigel Farage is wrong is say he's now the official opposition. That phrase is used very much in parliamentary terms, that there are people who are the leader of His Majesty's opposition. That's a position they take up within Westminster. Very important. They get public money for that, so that they have an actual official position. So he can't claim that. What he can do is say, I have a right to be heard in a debate like this because I've got a lot of people who are interested in me. And for those who are just sort of following the election from a distance, the idea that this would make it so much more interesting.
Yeah.
So the BBC's got a duty to make the general election interesting.
They probably have more viewers.
Oh, yeah, they have more viewers.
People would like to see him go head
Yeah, they want
head
to see it.
with
And also,
Starmer.
what they do want to do with Nigel Farage is he's got one really main policy about immigration. He's going to say, oh, it affects everything else, like house building and all sorts of things. But it doesn't really. His main thread is immigration and what you do about it. And what people would like to do is say, what else would you do?
Yes.
And so there are all sorts of other things, too, that, you see, in Britain, we're not used to tactical voting. There are in other countries. In France, all the left-wing parties have, even now, in the last 2 days, agreed to work together and stand down in their seats, which they don't think they'll win. So it's an amazingly sort of skillful operation by the French left, just as an example across the Channel. We just still think, and I think it's partly because people imagine, when you say how are you voting, how are you going to vote, that it's a personal question which people want to answer. Perfectly
And we're very
reasonable.
private about it.
Proud of it. Instead of saying, and when somebody was asked the other day, they said, how are you voting? And he would say, why don't you vote tactically? Vote, don't vote for this, you'll let Labour in. And he was saying, why should I vote for a party I don't agree with?
Yeah, it's a very different framing of it, isn't it?
It's a very different framing of it. And so we're traditionally very much not involved in the tactical voting, which will, how that is resolved in 3 weeks' time will be a big factor in the election. So to leave that out and not discuss it would be ridiculous.
Yeah. Right, John, Joanna, Alex, don't go anywhere. Coming up still tonight, the panel is going to run through the very first of tomorrow's front pages as we prepare for Trooping of the Colour. Trooping the colour, not of. And next, with Oxford University cancelling the end-of-year exams after disruption from pro-Palestine protesters, are students in the UK being let down terribly by those institutions again? Oxford University student Connor Boyle will tell me all about it after this short break. This is Patrick Christys Tonight with me, Bev Turner, on GB News.
This Saturday, GB News invites you to witness the pageantry, the tradition and the unity. Join Ellie Costello and me, Andrew Pearce, in a celebration of His Majesty the King's official birthday. Trooping the Colour, Saturday at 10 a.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, and we are Britain's election channel.
This vote may seem to be about the politicians and the media, but it's actually about you. We won't forget that.
Join us up and down the country as we follow every moment together.
More than ever, it's important to hear all sides
as you make your decision in the run-up to polling day.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The University of Cambridge has told students to stop flirting with staff under a new policy banning sexual relationships with professors. The new rules, which come into force next month, beginning of July, include a warning against behaviour that could be interpreted as flirtatious. University staff have been told they must report any behaviour that could constitute a student making advances towards a personal, particularly intimate relationship with them. If you're a tutor, how do you interpret what is flirting and what is just sort of like having a bit of banter?
In fact, we've got to
Very nice trousers, by the way.
Thank you.
You see, you didn't even recognise.
Oh, I didn't.
Very well.
I think I'm blushing now. I'm blushing.
So, what's flirting? What's me complimenting your very well-fitting trousers? Yes.
Well, there is a line, because obviously when you're 18 and you go to university, it might be the first time you're away from home. It might be the first time that you're open to maybe a bit of a nightlife, social activity, drinking and all the rest of it. On the flip side, I know a couple who, the pupil
ended up dating their professor, and they've been together for about sort of 15 years now. So I used to go after lectures with my professor and the whole seminar. We used to go to the pub afterwards, and I became very good friends with. She was a mature student. She was on the very, very far left of political. You wondered where that was going for a second, didn't you?
We're both breathing a huge sigh of relief.
Very quick for you, Joe. We're running out of very nice trousers as well. We're running
Thank
out
you.
of
Not as snug as Charlie.
I think you've got to have some rules in place that there's no abuse of power. Policing it's difficult. We ought to be in a position where you can say, get off, back off, or, you know, banter's fine. Actually, I hate that word. I hate it almost as much as woke. Go on, email in.
Thank you very much. I'm flirting with both.
The People's Channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
There's a spelling error.
This is Patrick Christys tonight with me, Bev Turner, only on GB News. Still to come, I'm going to bring you the very first of tomorrow's front pages with tonight's panel of top pundits. But now, Oxford University has been forced to cancel end-of-year exams after pro-Palestine protesters stormed a building on their campus. More than 150 students were affected by the cancellations yesterday after 6 demonstrators stormed the East School building in the university's exams complex at around 9 a.m. The protesters hung pro-Palestine flags out of the windows, including one saying "All eyes on Rafah," having forcibly overpowered a receptionist to gain entry. Thames Valley Police attended the incident, but no arrests were made. This comes just weeks after Cambridge University graduation ceremonies were forced to a different location by a pro-Palestine encampment on the campus. And it's worth reminding ourselves that these students are paying over £9 grand a year if they're from the UK, with international students forking out up to £48,000 a year. After the repeated disruption that lockdowns caused for students, these latest protests are surely the last thing they need or deserve. So let's say hello to a student from Oxford University. Connor Boyle. Connor, good evening. Thank you. Yeah, great. Thank you so much for joining me. Better than you, I imagine. So you're in the middle of your exams at the moment, aren't you? Or have you just finished?
I've just finished, actually, and thankfully my exams finished just before, you know, this incident took place in the exam complex. So we were scot-free, thankfully. Right.
So tell us what's been going on the ground there, Connor. You've heard my backstory. My heart breaks for you guys who've been at uni the last few years. It must have been really rough. What's happened this week?
Well, so there's always been, well, not always, but ever since, you know, this thing in Gaza has sort of taken on a life of its own, there's been an encampment at one of the museums. There's now one in one of the central parts of the university as well. And then, as I say, on Thursday morning, a number of students, we hope, I think it's students anyway, got into the exam schools building, as we call it, and were able to, I think anyway, take over one of the big rooms that the students usually do their exams in. So, I don't know, I mean, I think then they were there for the most of the day. Someone told me that most of them were brought out at about 1 o'clock in the morning this morning. I mean, I thought it was quite funny, actually, because, you know, I finished my exams on Friday, but all of the politics exams, the last one of those finished on Wednesday, and I find it funny that this thing then starts on Thursday. And I have a funny notion that you've got a lot of obsessive politics students who got their own exams out of the way right enough, but then other people, they were happy enough to do this. But
So do you think this is politics students at the university who've been campaigning?
I must admit, I am a politics student too, but I'm just saying it would fit, wouldn't it? I mean, that's the sort, isn't it? So
I have higher expectations. I can't lie. I've got higher expectations of anybody who's studying politics at Oxford, that they would surely appreciate the education that you're getting, and they would appreciate the fact that sitting those final exams is such an important part of that journey, that they wouldn't be so selfish to disrupt it for everybody.
Well, I don't know. As I say,
I'm clearly out of touch.
You know, first of all, we don't know whether they're students at all. I assume they were, because they do insist on seeing your exam card before you go in. But I'm just saying it would fit, because that's the day that they're out of the clear. You know, their exams won't get disrupted if they do it after Wednesday, and as I say, that's when it happened.
So tell us what, even before this exam week was disrupted, what's the presence of these protesters like at the university? Where are they sleeping in those tents?
I I think so. Some of them are definitely, and you have to kind of give them credit for at least committing to the whole thing. But in fairness, unless, you know, so I don't spend much time over where the museum that they have the encampment is, but given that I avoid that area necessarily, I don't see them around and about. So in fairness, I think they keep to their area, and they don't necessarily, you know, come out onto the streets, you know, that sort of thing. There was obviously an incident at one of the sort of central university offices, but someone said that they are committed to it. They are sleeping in there, and they're having sort of supplies and everything else brought in. I mean, it was quite funny even yesterday afternoon. I don't know if this was their mates or whether it was somebody involved in the university itself. There was a video on Instagram or of people winching a big bag of supplies up to the exam school's window, which I thought was quite funny. But
presumably what, a Deliveroo or something?
I would imagine so, yeah.
Takeaway?
I mean, you know, very, very good, you know, very expensive fair trade stuff, you'd have to imagine as well, you know. I don't know, I mean, listen, we can't tell whether this, like, if that was the university, I suppose, that did it, you would want to think, you know, that's not a very good way to respond, in the sense that if you sort of give into this or whatever, you're going to get, not only are you going to get more of this, but anybody who has a good enough cause or who feels passionately enough about their cause, they'll do the exact same thing. And as I say, I've had friends who had their exam yesterday cancelled, but then this morning there was more exams, the last of them, I suppose, that there was a 45-minute delay because they were being extra stringent on checking who could and could not get into the building. So it's a pretty miserable way to finish if you are taking exams this last few days.
And we've seen other universities here and in America that actually had their graduation balls cancelled because of these protesters. And then the arrogance of some of those individuals to say, well, your ball is not important when people are dying in Gaza. And the situation in the Middle East, Connor, is miserable by any definition. It's horrific. But to spoil the once-in-a-lifetime university experience of those students is not going to make any difference to what's happening in the Middle East. Does anybody ever tell them that?
I mean, like, listen, you'd be hard-pressed to do it, but I suppose the main thing is Bibi Netanyahu was not sitting an exam yesterday, nor was the Vice-Chancellor. You know, I have a funny notion that this is a lot more for their own sort of personal, oh, look at me, I did something really brave, you know, I did what all of my friends agreed with, so that makes me really brave, as opposed to going out and doing something maybe a bit more productive. And I have to say, right, freedom of speech and the freedom to protest is sacrosanct in my view. I wouldn't want the university or the state to go in and stop them doing
100%.
this. But that doesn't mean you can't criticise it and say it's ineffective and a bit silly.
Yeah, and also unreasonably disruptive, I would say, to the youngsters who've already had a tough time at university in the last 3 years.
This is what you're going to say, because we're the generation that came through the pandemic and whatnot, and I shouldn't call it the pandemic, I should call it the lockdowns, because they're two slightly different things. And as I say, we had a bad enough end to secondary school, and it would be a pity if that was sort of replicated for a totally different reason here at university.
How do you think you've done in your exams, Connor? What do you think you're going to get?
We will see. We will see. Next question, please.
And on that bombshell, Connor Boyle, thank you so much for joining us there from Oxford University. Good luck with your results. Right, coming up, what caused a brawl to break out in the Italian parliament that ended up with one pummeled parliamentarian leaving in a wheelchair after being punched? Maybe it's not just students who behave like this. More of that in the press pack. But next, we're going to bring you the very first of tomorrow's front pages, hot off the press. And I've got a feeling that a certain princess could be featured on just a few of them. This is Patrick Christys Tonight with me, Bev Turner, on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Further showers are expected over the next 24 hours and beyond, with prolonged rain at times, but also some clear spells in between the downpours. Low pressure is currently stationed to the west-northwest of Scotland, and around that low we've got a gusty wind bringing frequent showers into much of the UK, but also some longer spells of rain. One such area of rain affecting northern Scotland through the evening, and then another band of rain pushing into Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and the southwest during the early hours. So a lively night to come with some heavy rain at times and that gusty wind, but some clear spells as well. And where we've got the clear spells, temperatures dipping into the single figures or even the mid-single figures in some of the cooler spots, for example, central Scotland. But for the north of Scotland, we keep the wet weather going on Saturday morning, particularly for Shetland. Some outbreaks of rain there for Orkney. But for much of the mainland of Scotland, it's dry. Best of the sunshine of the day will be in the morning on Saturday. Thicker cloud into southern Scotland, northern England, and this band of rain just affecting parts of Northern Ireland, into the Midlands, the southeast as well. Some heavy downpours before a mix of sunny spells and blustery showers push into South Wales and the southwest of England. That develops more widely across the UK, so really it's a case of bright spells and heavy showers out there on Saturday afternoon. You certainly will need your umbrella at hand if you're heading out, even if it's sunny when you leave the house. But there will be some longer spells of rain, particularly for northwest England, southern Scotland, for example. Even some thunderstorms out there. So an unpleasant day for many places, highs of 17 or 18 Celsius. Sunday starts off a little brighter and drier across England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland sees a band of rain push south. That breaks up to become more of a showery feature into the afternoon. And in between the showers, there will be some sunshine once again. A drying up trend then into Monday and Tuesday with fewer showers and a better chance of some sunshine.
This Saturday, GB News invites you to witness the pageantry, the tradition and the unity. Join Ellie Costello and me, Andrew Pearce, in a celebration of His Majesty the King's official birthday. Trooping the Colour, Saturday at 10 a.m. on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Nana Acquia. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Patrick Christys tonight on GB News and me, Bev Turner. Right, I'm taking my glasses off because we've just been looking at the front pages of the paper. The guests are with me back here, of course, John, Joanna and Alex. Right, let's have a look at these. So, front page of the Daily Mail. First of all, here it is. And Kate, there are good days and bad days, but I'm making good progress, with the picture of her there in the garden at Windsor, looking off onto the horizon. Obviously announcing here that this says the Princess says her treatment's ongoing, but she will be at trooping today. On to the Guardian. Guardian actually do not have a picture of the Princess of Wales. They've got a picture of Naomi Campbell there, looking unrecognisable. But they're leading with Tory leadership hopefuls jostle to replace Sunak. We'll come on to that in just a moment. They do make a very small mention of the Princess of Wales set for public outing. The Eye newspaper, Tories face growing peril from Farage. This is the story that nearly half of Conservative voters want an alliance with Nigel Farage's Reform Party, according to a poll by the Eye newspaper. Right, let's ask my panel what they make of these stories. You did point out, John, that The Independent was the one that went with my headline, which is... I'm
listening to you.
I'm not out of the woods yet. I have good days and bad days.
And she's leaning against a tree.
I think that's a really nice front cover, actually, if I do say so myself.
I tell you what is nice is that also, if you see pictures of her where it's just her, it works very well. If they cut out there's almost too much... The overall picture is almost too much forest.
Yeah.
But actually, she looks terrific in this. Now,
yeah,
I think
she does.
And she looks reflective and nice, and the balance is perfect.
She does. And the headline, Rattled Sunak tries to calm Tory nerves over the march of Farage. Alex, what do you make of them leading on that? What are they up to?
Well, I think they know what they're thinking, what everyone else is thinking, Bev, aren't they? Which is, who would you rather as a Conservative leader, Nigel Farage, a true Conservative, or Rishi Sunak, the man who's about to fly off to California in 3 weeks' time? And, you know, look... they're right here to say Farage boasts he is the real opposition, and he does very much seem like the real opposition when it comes to Conservatism. So, yeah, I can see what they're doing there. They're really shoving the final knife into the Tories, aren't they?
But do you think Sunak is trying to calm Tory nerves over the march of Farage. Joanna, you almost never hear him say Nigel's name in public. He did the other day, which is very unusual. He normally just doesn't comment. I wonder what conversations are going on behind the scenes now, though.
I think that there'll be a lot of conversations going on behind the scenes, and I think that more so it will be from his actual members of the party, other MPs, people of the cabinet, putting pressure on him to say, come on, you're our leader, what are we going to do? But really, what we're seeing is more kind of negative stories from the Conservatives, and particularly from Rishi Sunak, so he's not exactly doing them any favours, you know, after coming back and not kind of staying with the soldiers and all the bad press that he's got recently and coming back for that ITV interview. So I think that there isn't really much that he can actually give as a leader. You know, even if you're losing, you should still kind of stay united as a team, but I don't think that they're united at all, and he's not showing that kind of reassurance.
I think the problem he's got here, I mean, what normally in politics happens is you just start a real fight, you know, go below and just say, look, you're a creeper, you've got no personality, you've got whatever it is, but, you know, really start a personal attack. But they know with Farage there's a problem there.
Yes.
And that,
because he's so well liked by so many of the public?
No, it's because he can't... Farage can always move further to the right. So what Sunak's got to do, and it's... You know, it's an extremely difficult thing. He's still got to keep to his main idea, which is to move to the centre and keep the Conservatives as near the centre as possible, is a traditional way of winning a British election.
Yeah.
The trouble is that once you've got Farage there and the interest in him, people want to say, yes, well, what are you going to say to him? Well, he can't then say, look, calm down, don't get so excited, don't be so much to the right, which is what he should do in terms of... Sorry, I'm sounding complicated, but it's not really that complicated.
No, it isn't.
We're staying in the centre. That's what I've got to do as a leader, Rishi Sunak. You want me to get enamoured or start a fight with someone on the right. I don't want that. I want to start a fight with someone on the left. I want to start a fight with Starmer. So he's left really looking rather hopeless because all the usual skills of venom, you know, attack, and all the rest of it, he can't use.
I've sort of thought since spring 2020 that the definitions of left and right have become largely redundant. But as we hurtle towards this election, Alex, I feel like there is a little more clarity as to what that means now. Do you?
Yeah, but I genuinely think that the left have gone so far left that the centre ground itself has... Yes,
no, they haven't.
The left have gone so far left... Hang on, you two, shut up. Left have gone so far left that anything else that's not on the left seems right-wing. And so what the party's struggling with here is a man like Nigel Farage who is putting out Conservative values, actually talking about cutting taxes to the level that Tories really want it, talking about actually dealing with the manifesto pledges they pledged for the last 10 years, like cutting immigration. And they're looking at him going, wait, who's the Prime Minister? Who's the leader of our party again?
No,
so, of course, they're rattled.
They're
absolutely rattled.
Zero immigration. You know,
he's saying net zero.
Right, no, he's saying zero. No, but he quantifies.
He's talking about having children, like, you know, funding parents.
You can't, from Rishi Sunak's point of view, you can't do much about that.
Well, you can. You can come out and say we're going to actually deliver on our pledges that we've failed to do for the last 10 years.
You know what I find really interesting, Alex?
You can't. In the middle of an election campaign, you can't just simply say, OK.
I think it would do him some. But I think it would do him some favours to say we failed. We have failed the public over the last 10 years.
I agree with you, Nigel. Can you imagine him
I think he should, because I think he would actually get some votes back. No, I think he would, because he's lost 20% of those Tory voters have gone to Nigel Farage. That is a
because
seat
of immigration.
Winner.
Because of immigration.
Then why don't they come out and say we have failed and we should have done better than lie to the public?
They're not going to Nigel Farage because of Nigel Farage's economic policy, and I think it's really interesting that...
I think you're wrong. I think there's some Tories that are.
If some of these policies, regardless of the fact that it's about cutting taxes, you would be saying, if it was a Labour leader, well, how are you going to pay for it? And this is one of the problems with reform, the fact that they haven't had enough scrutiny, and it's all right to say, all right, you know...
You don't want him on the leadership debate, Joanna. You've just said he doesn't want scrutiny, but you don't want him to stand on the leadership debates. Come on.
No, but the difference is that because he doesn't have any actual experience in terms of a past voting record and stuff like that, I don't think that these panel debates...
He was a member of the European Parliament for 20 years.
No, OK, the European Parliament, but then who's even... It's funny how he wants to forget about Brexit now. It's funny how, when he's running this election, he's barely mentioned Brexit because he knows that that's the last one, and then now it's a new protest vote on everything else and about blaming everyone else. But I don't think that these panel discussions or debates are actually that productive for somebody like Nigel Farage. I would have liked him to have him in a setting similar to the Sky debate the other night, where you have a journalist that really kind of scrutinises, and then the public also asks questions. Because what happens is when we have these panel debates, Nigel Farage will have his quick one-liners and his sound bites, and he gets away with it because he's a charismatic politician, and that's as far as it goes.
Unlike Keir Starmer, whose dad's a toolmaker.
That's so boring.
To have a proper journalistic
grilling. They need a grilling.
The other thing that happens is the producers of these programmes, they want sort of, lively, simple questions, don't they? They don't want, but you said last year this, and how about this, and this is another percent.
I do agree.
They're not interested in that. They want something like, come on now, tell us what we're going to do about immigration. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Marvellous television.
But, look, I think that's simplifying Nigel's arguments, because he is right to say that when immigration rises, our public services come under massive pressure. We're not building enough houses, so he's not wrong to say those things.
No,
anyone with common sense can see that if you raised it...
OK, have you done any calculations on this? Which areas are affected by it?
And sure.
And then it all falls apart.
I don't know if it does. I don't know if it does. If we're bringing in 700,000 people on net a year, the size of Birmingham, you can't say that it's not crystallised.
People are not using food banks because of immigration.
I'm not saying that they are, but but housing is a problem. If you can't get on the housing ladder now, Joanne, and you're competition with five other people because there are too many people in our country.
Falling apart,
Alex. Policies, and whether he's got detailed research in some of these key areas. And I'm sorry to say, but
you see, the thing is, I think that for years there have been sort of shy Tories, right? No one could admit they were going to vote Tory. Are those shy Tories morphing now into shy Reform voters who might not admit it?
I think that's certainly true. And I think that this is one of the difficulties that the pollsters have.
Yes.
It's interesting, their figures of, I think, 40% people saying don't know, because they don't want to be pigeonholed in one place or another. So we really don't know. And this is why I think one's got to be very careful about the figures for the reform, because normally what pollsters do is they work out what happened last time. There's no last time.
Yeah.
This is an area where they normally do X.
Arguably, the last time you were voting for something that Nigel Farage felt strongly about, it was the Brexit referendum.
And he did lend his vote to Boris Johnson, and look at the landslide he gave Boris because of his endorsement. That landslide wouldn't have happened without Nigel Farage.
Sure.
What about the I'm a celebrity effect? What difference has that made? Because let me tell you what's made in our house. My kids had no idea who Nigel Farage is now. And now when they see him on the telly, they say, oh, we love him.
Yeah.
Mummy, vote for him, vote for him. And teenagers all around the country will be giving their parents permission in a way that they may not have felt comfortable doing before.
What's so interesting, Bev, is that Reform and Nigel Farage are the second most popular party amongst young people after Labour. Labour, of course, massive majority, like 50%, I think 47%. But the second is Reform. And this is happening across Europe. This is not just Britain. Young people are looking at the state of our country and listening to the message that Nigel Farage and Reform are putting out and agreeing with it. The problem with a lot of us who are a little bit older and a bit more baggage and politically is that we've sort of been brainwashed by the main political party to say that someone like Nigel Farage shouldn't have a platform.
The other problem, you've pointed out, yes, children, young people all over the country, all sorts of views. But it's hopeless in our political system.
Well, that's
true. It means you're spreading all this out. So you can have large numbers of people, large percentages, but you need to concentrate on the regional effect. This is why the Lib Dems will do much better than Reform on the same number of votes. I mean, so all this stuff is, I'm afraid, sometimes just ignored by people. But if everybody was thinking more clearly, there would be more tactical voting.
But I think now, when you're seeing that Reform vote get so strong at 19%, the message is becoming a lot better from Reform because they're saying, now we're the opposition, we've got the majority of votes. So if all of you lot voting Tory decided to flip to us, we'll win that red wall back.
Well,
they should concentrate on some areas.
A lot of people did not know who Reform were when Richard Tice was in charge. And Nigel has obviously given them that awareness and that profile that they didn't have before. Joanna, as someone who's not a particular fan of Nigel Farage...
Really?
I love him. What do you mean?
If he does win his seat in Clacton, and then maybe there's a couple more MPs that they get, but he's been very clear about the fact that his plan is a much longer 10-year proposition. How would you feel about that kind of movement of British politics?
Well, Alex said something earlier that I'm kind of it's just because it's Reform, it's just because it's Nigel Farage. But I don't think it's that. I think the thing that I really don't like about him is that it's the Nigel Farage show, and it's similar to Trump. So it's like you can have an opposing view to me. That's society, that's democracy, that's absolutely fine. But what I don't like is that if he actually got a seat and got into the House of Commons, everything would be about getting that soundbite, that clip that news shows would use, being disruptive, similar to how he was in the European Parliament. It's the Nigel Farage show. Whereas if you actually are somebody who is in a position where you want to be of public service and you care about the country, then you should put your personality aside to an extent and not just try to disrupt and cause a scene all the time. And
well,
that's the problem.
A leader of the Conservatives, a leader of Labour who appear to have put their personalities to one side for all of our benefit.
Yeah, I think there's another point too about Nigel Farage. It does seem that the parties that he really likes is a party with him as the only member. You know, there is a sense in which he likes it to be him. And this is I'm trying to be as objective as possible.
Yeah.
If you look at that character in political terms, which is what I'm interested in, you think, hold on a moment, as you're a one-man band here, you need to get a team together, you need to get people together to do anything.
Thanks, all. We've been beaten by the clock, but still to come, the crowning moment of tonight's show, where I will announce our Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. But next, we're going to bring you more of tomorrow's front pages, which are landing thick and fast as we speak. This is Patrick Christys tonight, but with me, Bev Turner, on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Recent polling suggests dentistry has become the hardest NHS service for patients to access, within NHS treatments still 15% lower than pre-pandemic levels. So a YouGov survey reveals that more than 70% of Brits describe seeing the dentist as difficult, compared with 64% for GPs and 42% for A&E services. One British man, get this, he even took to flying 10,000 miles for dental care, saying the extra time and money spent was far less hassle than trying to get an appointment on the NHS. I mean, it's a sad state of affairs. And a shocking 1/5 of UK adults have also admitted to trying DIY dentistry, including the old trick of tying string around a wobbly tooth and slamming it in the door so it comes out. So, should people be more careful when taking their teeth into their own hands?
That is one of the problems. Obviously, population growth makes it much more difficult for people to access NHS services, but they need to then catch up on the other side with dental services and increase the amount of dentists and access to dentistry, and especially NHS dentistry, obviously.
What's the cut-off age for free dentistry on the NHS?
So it is 18 years old, but there are exemptions around maternity, pregnancy. There's some free care around pregnancy.
We saw some data a few weeks back about the number one cause for child admission into A&E is tooth decay. I mean, that was shocking when I read it.
It's really bad, and what happens is people, kids with multiple decayed teeth, they basically have to be put under general anaesthetic, and then all those rotted teeth have to be extracted under general anaesthetic. Like, if those baby teeth start going crooked, then the adult teeth start going crooked as well. So it is important to look after the baby teeth. It's really important. I think they should make it more central to their policies, definitely.
The People's Channel.
This is Patrick Christys on GB News tonight with me, Bev Turner. We're going to have a look at some more front pages which have been delivered hot off the press. The Times, of course, have gone with the Princess of Wales there. Full-length picture. Princess reveals toll of cancer treatment, announcing that she will be at the Trooping of the Colour show today, but of course that is tomorrow for us now. And the Mirror. Again, they've cropped this picture. John and I have been commenting on the difference, this image, and how it does look good from different angles. It's really good. And the headline, there are good days and bad days. Kate's message to the nation. The Express, this was the one that we predicted. Kate, I'm not out of the woods yet. There she is, with remarkable candour and a deeply held sense of purpose. The Princess of Wales reveals that she has good days and bad days. I have to say, from a PR point of view, I think they've toned this beautifully, guys. I don't know about you. Daily Telegraph, Princess to take first step back to public life, with the full-length shot there amongst the trees in Windsor. And the Daily Star, have gone with the Ice Age cometh. Hot water bottles out as temperatures drop to 7 degrees. And yes, we have noticed. I arrived here today in my winter coat. It's just ridiculous. Right, guys, what do we want to talk about? Shall we... Let's look at... Oh, in fact, we're going to move on to another story that isn't in the papers today. Right, this is about Pride Month. So, we're halfway through Pride Month, and the Grand Tour presenter, James May, has called the 300 Pride flags displayed in London as authoritarian and oppressive. The presenter issued this warning. He said, please remember that some terrible things with which you would not wish to be allied began with TMB, which is short for Too Much Bunting, World War II, for example. Of course, he had to go on to clarify that he wasn't comparing Pride flags to Nazis and wished peace and love to everyone, but there have been calls for the flags to be removed. The religious group Christian Concern launched a petition saying that the mass display is divisive and promotes transgender ideology that is especially damaging for children. So, Alex, has Pride Month gone too far?
It has. I mean, we've just had the 80th anniversary of D-Day, and the night before, they're taking down Union Jacks from Regent Street and putting up Pride flags. I mean, one day for our veterans who died and gave their lives to fight Nazism, and you get a whole month for the way that you're born. It's becoming ridiculous. Yeah. And that flag is very oppressive because it's used often by the far-left trans activists to push an ideology and say, if you don't acknowledge us and your we will come at you very aggressively. And look at the ideology that's being forced into schools and these poor young children who don't know any better, you know?
Joanna, the fight against homophobia has been won, hasn't it? Do we not need to row back a little bit on all this obsession?
No, not necessarily. You know, we're still seeing hate crimes, you know, that are homophobic. We're still seeing trans children still dying. So I don't think the fight has been, you know, won at all. I think obviously we've come a long way, but it's similar to even racism. Obviously we've come a really long way in this country when it comes to that. But it doesn't mean that there isn't still, you know, hate crimes there. And, you know, Alex, I'm picking on you tonight, but, you know, you said about D-Day. How many streets are there in London? You could make a D month if you wanted, but somebody's chosen not to. So then why
well, the Mayor of London has chosen not to. He's in charge of these flags and all these things, and I think that says a lot to me.
How long has it been since D-Day? If they wanted to make a whole month out of it, they would have done it by now.
Well, they should.
Should we be obsessed with who people want to sleep with? Because that is what Pride Month is.
Oh, I didn't know that.
it is, isn't it?
No, I just think the whole identity politics thing, for me, has just gone far too far.
The gutter.
There are so much more interesting things to talk about. And for a lot of the people involved, who are really involved, are a minority, and good luck to them and all the rest of it. But we have covered this endlessly. And could we now just accept most of all this? I don't mean aggressive trans behaviour, I don't mean aggressive gay behaviour, but can we now just move on to other subjects? Because
the problem is that it's going backwards, John. Like, you know, we're actually seeing the polls in America shift away from people supporting gay rights now because they have had so much of this ideology shoved down their throats by these extreme activists. So normal gay people. No, but that flag is forced down your throat every year for a whole bloody month.
Snowflakes, you know, for bringing it down. It's a flag. Like, get over it.
It's a lot of flags. It's a lot. We can't. There's a lot of flags. Right. We've got to move on. A mass brawl broke out in the Italian Parliament over a controversial government proposal that opponents say will further impoverish the country's poorest south. This resulted in one MP having to leave in a wheelchair after being punched. Have a look. We're up against the clock a bit here, John, but is that typical of Italian Parliament?
Well, under the current, there's always this high level of extremism of all sorts, high level of lots of different parties because of the voting system, and a really serious problem north and south in Italy, which has been going on for many, many years. When I was an economics student, I drove a car to Sicily to look at the position in Sicily. Why? Because it was the nearest third world area.
Gosh.
So, I mean, I feel I've gone through all this. They're policies which you think by now, surely they ought to resolve some of them, but they find it very difficult to do that.
Yeah, tensions run high there. Right, listen, Greatest Britain and Union Jackass next. Right, who do I start with? John, let's go to you. Who is your greatest Britain?
Greatest Britain, easy one. Yeah, Princess Kate, Princess of Wales. You know, once again, someone that all of us should look at.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, she's the greatest.
Joanna, who's your greatest Britain this evening?
Mine is honorary, and it's Christine Cooper. I don't know if people remember, he was a victim of the Central Park Karen, who called the police on him, clearly racially profiling him, but he was just bird watching, and now he's won an Emmy for his wildlife documentary.
Yeah.
So
I remember that story clearly. It was brilliant, and the woman was filming him and saying, "I'm being attacked by an African-American man." She kept saying, didn't she?
Yeah.
And he was waiting for her to put her dog on the lead because he was bird watching, and it was a horrible misunderstanding, but yeah, good for him. Right, go on, Alex. Who's your greatest Britain?
I'm a huge Star Wars fan, right? And I'm so disappointed this new Star Wars TV series. So Leslie Headland, who is the director of the latest Star Wars...
Is this your greatest Britain or your Union
Jackass? Sorry, am I getting the wrong one? I'm getting this wrong way around.
Greatest Britain first.
Greatest Britain.
Who do you like?
Sorry, Greatest Britain
Give it away.
Sorry, everyone. Greatest Britain is the veterans of the Falkland Islands War. It's the 42nd anniversary today. Sorry, viewers. And a big shout out to a GB News viewer who actually submitted this to me online, which I thought was fantastic. Because they completely passed me by somehow.
I rattled
Simon Hatt's his name.
Well,
you did, yeah, sorry.
Earlier today, I actually thought that Joanna's man was going to be Greatest Britain honorary, because I love that story and I love how calmly he's handled the subsequent. So we've kind of given it to him, but now when I'm sat here tonight, I feel we're going to give it to you, Christian Cooper. But in my heart, it's going to the Princess of Wales also tonight for tomorrow. Of course it is. Right, who's your Union Jackass, John?
Well, honorary one, Vladimir Putin. I mean, his proposal for peace in Ukraine, coupled with a suggestion of more tension over nuclear weapons, no, jackass.
OK, go on, Joanna, who's your jackass?
Mine is also honorary, and it's Candace Owens for relentlessly pursuing her theory that Brigitte Macron is a man. It's just ridiculous. I mean, so many things going on in the world. A poor woman.
And you, Alex?
Yeah, well, we've got half of mine already. So it's the new director of Star Wars, Leslie Headland, who's made Star Wars so woke, it's unwatchable. We've got two lesbians creating a child through the Force somehow. I don't know what's going on.
And that's our winner tonight, Leslie Headland, because it is ridiculous.
It's mad.
Right, thank you so much, guys. I've enjoyed sitting here instead of Patrick tonight. Patrick will be back tomorrow night after the weather headliners. Night-night.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest forecast from the Met Office for GB News. Further showers are expected over the next 24 hours and beyond, with prolonged rain at times, but also some clear spells in between the downpours. Low pressure is currently stationed to the west-northwest of Scotland, and around that low we've got a gusty wind bringing frequent showers into much of the UK, but also some longer spells of rain. One such area of rain affecting northern Scotland through the evening, and then another band of rain pushing into Northern Ireland, parts of Wales and the southwest during the early hours. So a lively night to come with some heavy rain at times and that gusty wind, but some clear spells as well. And where we've got the clear spells, temperatures dipping into the single figures or even the mid-single figures in some of the cooler spots, for example, central Scotland. But for the north of Scotland, we keep the wet weather going on Saturday morning, particularly for Shetland. Some outbreaks of rain there for Orkney. But for much of the mainland of Scotland, it's dry. Best of the sunshine of the day will be in the morning on Saturday. Thicker cloud into southern Scotland, northern England, and this band of rain just affecting parts of Northern Ireland, into the Midlands, the southeast as well. Some heavy downpours before a mix of sunny spells and blustery showers push into South Wales and the southwest of England. That develops more widely across the UK, so really it's a case of bright spells and heavy showers out there on Saturday afternoon. You certainly will need your umbrella at hand if you're heading out, even if it's sunny when you leave the house. But there will be some longer spells of rain, particularly for northwest England, southern Scotland, for example. Even some thunderstorms out there. So an unpleasant day for many places, highs of 17 or 18 Celsius.
It's our summer spectacular. 3 top prizes that have to be won. There's cash. £15,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like this summer. Plus a brand new iPhone 15 with a set of Apple AirPods. And if that wasn't enough, we'll also treat you to some fun in the sun with £500 to spend at your favourite UK attraction this summer. For another chance to win the iPhone, treats and £15,000 cash, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB06 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 28th of June. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Farmers across the country are inviting us all to learn more about food production and sustainable farming techniques.
It's an annual event organised by the farming charity Leaf, and it's aimed to show people really how food is produced in the countryside. Do you know, I'm a bit surprised about this. I would have thought the last thing you want is a load of, city types like us traipsing all across your farm and stopping production.
What will people learn, do you think, Colin?
That basically farmers are nice people and we produce good food. We don't mess up our food. It's the manufacturers that mess up our food. We produce very safe food and we love doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised you guys keep going with the dedication you do. I know you love the land and you love your work, but you only have to watch Clarkson's farm to see how hard it is for you. Maybe if we ordinary people appreciate what you do, you'll get a better deal from the politicians.
We won't talk about politics today, but, but my view is that we love farming, we love passing on our skills and knowledge and showing people that we're nice people and not that's betrayed by the public. Clarkson Farm has showed how hard it is. That's the reason why we have Open Farm Sundays, to try and get some of these young people down on the farm to see where their food comes from. You know, where the milk comes from, where the beef comes from, where eggs come from, where chicken, their lambs come from. And they need to know and they need to understand food production in the world is on a knife edge. We have politicians wanting us to grow wild flowers instead of food. But we want to grow food to feed the British public.
Yeah, and we've heard.
The People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic